Yo, what's good? It's your boy B-Dell. Today I'm going to give an extensive esoteric breakdown on this insidious metaphysical piece of literature called the Codex Gigas, which is also known as the Devil's Bible, that's concealed by the dark priesthood of the Vatican Church, which coincides to the occultic blueprint of the draconian reptilian agenda called the Codex Leicester. And guess who owns it, ladies and gentlemen? Bill Gates. Now, in 1994, Bill Gates purchased this 72-page manuscript for $30 million that was created by Leonardo da Vinci in 1510. Now, with supreme discernment, what you got to ask yourself is, why would somebody assimilate this amount of money to purchase this piece of literature? That's because it's talking about the luminosity of the moon and the terraforming of planet Earth by going from a three-dimensional state to a fifth-dimensional state due to extraction, right? Now, let me get my screen share going here. Right? So now when you're talking about extraction, you are talking about the planet going from a three-dimensional state into a fourth and fifth dimensional state. So with that being said, you're basically talking about the photon hydrogen atom creates electromagnetic energy, which also creates helium, and that helium creates electrons and carbon that's usurped through a black hole, which is the fourth and fifth dimensional shift, and gives power to everything that's natural on the planet. So when you're talking about everything in nature being, natural, that means that carbon is the building block of all civilization, and everything that's unnatural to the planet is going to be left behind. Everything that's natural to the planet is going to ascend. So when you're talking about the reptilian cannot take up on the anatomy of a carbonated neuromelanated being, because our anatomy is acclimated to nature. So that means a reptilian cannot ascend with the planet. It can only take up on the anatomy of a person who has the six ether genetical properties, right? So now when you're talking about the Codex Gigas, or the Codex Leicester, is talking about the future of the tectonic plates. So that's how you know when the pole shift starts to take place, this is where all the calamities and everything that's going to happen. So this, the Codex Leicester is basically a blueprint for the draconian reptilians to basically give power to the three-dimensional world, meaning that they want to save this planet so they can have keep their power, right? So this is basically an emulation of everything that's taking place when you're talking about the Codex Leicester. This is part of the 72-page manuscript, and it's basically showing you the attributes of the moon stealing energy from the sun. So that tells you right there that the moon is basically a megastructure. It's not real. So now we're going to be talking about the Codex Gigas. The Codex Gigas, this is the Devil's Bible. So if you look closely, you can see that there's a being on this page, which is a reptilian, because a reptilian has 4 fingers. Now with discernment, what you got to ask yourself is, why would somebody concoct this, this piece of literature? Look how big it is. You see what I'm saying? And I'm gonna give you a closer look of what you're looking at on that book. This is a reptilian. It has 4 fingers. So if you read any of Dr. York's, some of his literature, he gives you, the delineation between a reptilian or a Chitauri and things of that nature. These are beings that came from the Draconian star constellation and came down to the three-dimensional world to enforce draconian laws upon the original people, right? So now when you're talking about the literature and the context, that's inside the book, this is some of the artwork that's inside the Codex Gigas, and this is called the Draconic language, right? So now when you're talking about the Draconic language, where is it at? Let me get it going. Now you're talking about the Draconic language, and it says that the language is primarily used for lizard folk and troglodytes. What is a troglodyte? A troglodyte is a person who's connected to the Edomites, who is connected to the Esau bloodline when you're talking about the Bible, and it's also connected to the Canaanites, who are part of the Fluga Lords, the people who, that was created in 4086 BC on the island of Patmos, or the island of Peline, when you're talking about the creation of mankind, basically. So the Draconic language, when you look at the the energy drink of the